So, welcome back. We are back online with the next seminar. Now it's about conveying efficient PV installation on trapezoidal roofs. My name is still Thomas Denk, but I have a new face with me, namely Manuel Mischler. Manuel is responsible in our company for the product group Trepezoidal Roof, and the seam clamp is also included, which will be dealt with in April, also with the nice gentleman. Just briefly, to perhaps explain a little about the trapezoidal roof in general. Actually, it's a very nice surface to build on, a very grateful surface to install a photovoltaic system on. You have the options to install directly on the high rib, as nicely presented here, or on the side flank. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. We need a minimum thickness for installation on the trapezoidal roof, specifically a sheet thickness of 0.75 millimeters. Is that correct? Exactly, so I'm not talking nonsense here in the house. That's all for now, primarily. I would say, let's just proceed. It will be a very quick seminar. We will go through all 5 product groups that we have, briefly explain the installation for each, and explain where the advantages and disadvantages lie. We start with Trapez 1. We have Trapez 1 to 5, and we will go through them now.
Exactly.
Then tell us a bit about Trapez 1, the installation, and the advantages and disadvantages.
Exactly. We start here with Trapez 1. As you can see, it is already on the dismantling on the side flank. We have a pre-mounted EPDM rubber here to ensure the necessary tightness. Here, it is very important to screw in at a 90-degree angle to the flank. The screws are equipped with a sealing washer, but it is very important, as mentioned, to screw in at a 90-degree angle to ensure tightness. Furthermore, the trapezoid here at the top has a pivot joint, allowing us to compensate for any irregularities on the roof. And the advantage here is that we have extremely efficient material, saving us a lot of cost, and we can immediately enter our screw channel with the clamps and start securing right away.
Okay. Quite a simple system. There's not much more to explain about. What needs to be considered? You have to be very, very precise during installation here, right? Exactly. That means a slight misalignment is not tolerated here. You have to set up the construction site very, very well. But of course, there's very, very little material effort that I use here. I would say, let's move on to product number 2. Trapezoid 2.
Exactly. Let's take a closer look at it right away. Here we have our Trapezoid 2, again with pre-mounted EPDM rubber. The difference from Trapezoid 1 and all other trapezoid fasteners, here we have stainless steel as the material, and for installation, we have 2 options. We can either swivel it into the lower screw channel, or hook it in directly. Then let's quickly look at the installation on the roof. As you can see, it's already pre-mounted here. We also have the fastening on the side flank again, with the pre-mounted EPDM rubber and our self-drilling screws with sealing washer. Here, it's very important to always mount them in pairs opposite each other, so that the hooking tabs face once upwards and once downwards, ensuring the rail cannot pop out on one side. And as you can see here, we have enough space to adjust. The rail can expand and contract in length without anything getting misaligned or damaged.
Okay, since you're mentioning expansion, how do we handle thermal separation?
Exactly, we generally implement thermal separation every 15 meters. Here, for example, with the trapezoidal sheet, leave a 50 millimeters clear gap, then simply place the next trapezoidal sheet. Then we stop here with a clamp, start, again with a clamp on the next fastener, so that we can easily separate the module fields.
Okay, so a thermal separation is essentially just the separation of the module fields.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
The gap was 50 millimeters at 10 meters and 30 millimeter at 10 meters.
So you have both options. These facts should perhaps be noted. This means that in the design on the roof, it can already be an advantage if I don't go towards 15 but only towards a 10 gap, and perhaps achieve a better layout on the roof. Okay, then I would say, do you have anything else to add? Actually, you've explained it well. Hopefully, everyone has understood it. If there are any more questions today in the seminar, please just ask them in the chat. I will keep reading them out and try to answer them, of course, together with Manuel. Okay, what's next? After 2 comes 3.
Exactly. Unfortunately, with our Trapezoid 3, we can also take a detailed look at how Trapezoid 3 looks. Here we have our short rail of 370 millimeters with an asymmetrical drilling pattern on the lower flanges so that we can also compensate for the high bead distances. Because we always mount vertically to the high bead over 2 high beads. We can also take a look at that right away. As mentioned, here on the high bead, the installation is, of course, much easier, more convenient, and time-saving to screw in, not like on the side flank, but we can really screw in nicely from above here and also ensure that the screw sits properly. As mentioned, we span over 2 high beads here, and have our standardized screw channel. Here is the basic alignment for the modules, then vertically. We can also immediately start using the clamp here and begin installation right away.
Okay, thermal separation is exactly the same as with the previous products.
We can show it, again. You finish here with an end clamp. Start again here with an end clamp, with a 50 millimeters gap between the fasteners, and this creates a clean thermal separation.
Perfect. Good, now you can see the difference. We positioned the first 2 products on the side edge. You noticed that the installation is certainly a bit more strenuous there. You have to bend down a bit, you have to hit the angle precisely, and you have to be very, very precise during installation. Sorry, we are not talking about this product here. You have to be very precise during installation. A misalignment is not allowed here. With this type of installation, it is, of course, much easier. You can simply place the screw straight from above, apply good pressure, and there will be little slipping. And the advantage, when a product sits on the high rib, is that I have the clear benefit that water can drain off well over the rib itself. This means I am far away from the water-bearing layer, and in the event of ice formation or sliding ice, there will be no damage to the material, as could be possible with a side installation on the flank. Okay, for all products, perhaps we should mention it again. As you mentioned earlier, the EPDM seal is always pre-installed with us. Okay, we will also briefly discuss the screws that are used for this. The screws, too, have a sealing washer with an EPDM seal, but we will go into more detail on that later.
We'll take another look at that.
Let's move from number 3 to number 4.
Exactly, Trapezoid 4. You can see here we have an extra wide support on the high rib, so that we can distribute the forces as effectively as possible over the flanks. As mentioned, again on the high rib, easy to install, you can comfortably screw it in from above. This is our second long rail system after our Trapezoid 2. That means we automatically use our rail here so that we can clamp it. Exactly. Let's take a quick look at Trapezoid 4 in detail. You can see, we have an EPDM rubber underneath again, as with all our trapezoid fasteners. The special feature here is that we also have an additional plastic clip included. It can be easily inserted and removed, and we'll now see what it's for during the installation. Exactly, we've already prepared Trapezoid 4 twice here. It's already screwed in place and is in the open position. It's important that the hooks, the hanging hooks, face towards the ridge. We'll see why in a moment, when we now hang our rail. It fits neatly and is almost held in place by itself. Now, about our plastic clip, why do we have it? It's intended for our floating support, so that we have a fixed defined point where the rail can expand and contract. We achieve this by removing the plastic clip at the 4th trapezoid in the middle of the rail, screwing it tight, thus creating a fixed point outwards. If the clip remains in place, then the module can still move within the fastener, allowing it to expand and contract.
Okay, but despite this option, the same issue arises regarding thermal separation. Again, 10M, 30mm, 15M, 50mm. Exactly. Okay, is there any other particularity to explain? We are back on the high rib here. Again, a very, very simple installation. You can see, of course, more material is needed again. This means it is not a very, very cost-effective option like here. But in this case, it is much easier to install. It forgives mistakes. You don't have to be as precise as with version 1 and version 2. Okay, then let's move on. And also number 5 comes 5. Exactly, that's what I wanted to say.
We have already pre-assembled our trapezoid 5 here. It is also on the high rib, like trapezoid 4 and trapezoid 3. Again with a pre-assembled EPDM rubber included. Here again, a wide bearing surface so that we can effectively transfer the forces into the roof. And here, this is actually our counterpart to trapezoid 3. The only difference here is the orientation. Here we start vertically, here horizontally, but we can also immediately start with clamping, place our clamps, place the modules. Nothing else is needed except for our additional components, our clamps.
A very material-saving product in the end. I think that's what you were getting at. Exactly. The assembly is exactly the same again. So we've actually covered all the products. I would say, let's go through the accessories as well. There's quite a bit to it as well. Exactly. And just go and get it right away.
Let's start with the first one right away. This is our trapezoid adapter. Let's take a quick look at it in detail. Exactly. It also has a swivel joint at the top again, which is there so that we can also cover barrel supports, meaning we can follow the inclinations. But of course, you always have to check and calculate this on a case-by-case basis. At the bottom, we have the clamping again, so that we can immediately enter our screw channel. And the main component here, we have better ventilation. We move further away from the roof and are simply more efficient with our modules.
Opte. What I think is always quite noticeable with us is that we very often incorporate this round cord. That's an important detail. This round cord keeps our products open. That means we push it into the channel and the round cord already spreads the element, so it doesn't just slide out on the slope, but it holds now and can be fixed with one hand quite easily. Exactly. Really a nice detail.
Not every hand is like that, and it is also, of course, mounted as standard, with our Torx 40.
Just like everything else. Very nice. So, what else do we have?
Then we also have our cross connector.
Very important.
Exactly. Also, usable for all our screw channels. Here again, our hanging tab, so we can insert our rail. You can also briefly show it during assembly. It's easy to swivel in and clip in, and then I could take another rail here and thus create the cross connection. The cross connection has the advantage, of course, that we can support more loads and change the module orientation. And again, just like with the trapezoidal adapter, we move further away from the roof, have better ventilation, and thus become more efficient.
That's how it looks. Perhaps we should also address a product in more detail. You already had it in your hand. I'll just quickly grab it. We also have KP in the 60mm version, and it's precisely about this topic that you just mentioned. Better ventilation. Well-ventilated modules deliver more power, and that's exactly why we're doing this.
And with the Trapezoidal 5, as shown here, there is also a 60mm height version, just like the Trapezoidal 3.
Okay, exactly. Do we have anything lying around that you'd like to introduce? A very, very small, but very, very important topic. Listen carefully to this. They are just sheet metal screws that we use, but they do have a certain purpose and specific properties, which Manuel will now briefly explain and touch upon.
Exactly. Here we have our fastening. You might have already seen it. What is this little plate? This is our potential equalization plate. It is mounted between the screw head and the sealing washer for attachment. I'll quickly demonstrate it. It goes over the screw head here, and is then screwed in such a way that it really works into the aluminium layer, ensuring we have a permanently conductive connection. Then we are already on the topic. We have two different drilling screws with us. One is our screw, with a drill tip, and the other is the thread-forming one. The difference here with the drill tip is, of course, we have chip formation. Therefore, it's very important not to use it on steel roofs. The chips are usually not removed from the roof. This simply leads to corrosion formation. Use the thread-forming screw here. It displaces the material, it doesn't cut it out. Here, we have no spar, no chip formation, and the material is displaced inwards, providing more thread engagement so that the screw fits better. In general, our tightening torque is 2 Newton meters, and you can find our drilling performance available for download on our website in our product data sheet.
Very nice. With the self-tapping screw, you said the material is displaced. As a result, I already have better sealing in the channel here, don't I? Exactly, and it makes the whole thing much more stable. Okay, we have finished our presentation for the trapezoidal sheet. I see we don't have a single question. That means Manuel explained it very well today. We almost never have that. Therefore, I would now conclude the whole thing. If there are any more questions, please write them in the chat. We will be happy to answer them afterwards as well. Otherwise, feel free to approach me directly, that's no problem at all. Or is it directed towards product management? They will also answer all your questions. I say thank you very much for your attention, and we will see each other again in April with Manuel. Then it will be about the seam clamps. So, I wish you a pleasant rest of the week. Have fun on the roof. See you soon.